It's time for our press review. A first look at what's on the front pages and analysis of the top stories. Let's begin with this day. Reporting that the Nigerian President Buhari is talking tough, vows the suppliers of substandard fuel would be held accountable. Riders to that story direct service providers to give information on consumed products. House wants companies involved suspended. That's the House of Representatives. Amadeb Consortium fights back, says NNPC's claims misleading. Well, above that, 2023 Lukman ex-PGFDG drum support for 2022 committee. That committee has been making the rounds ahead of the elections. Well, IMF, Nigeria's debt sustainability at risk, cause for concern. But here's some good news. Nigeria's oil production rises by 202,000 barrels per day. And above the nameplate this morning, CBN, that's the Central Bank of Nigeria, eyes $200 billion from fresh non-oil export initiative. And finally, Irabo, military's involvement in insurgency war at high price. And that's the wife of the Chief of Defense Staff. She was speaking at an event yesterday. For this and many more, pick a copy of This Day today.
Let's pick the Nation newspaper. Toxic petrol, firms and NPC in row as Buhari orders sanctions. Banks lose access to CBN's forex cash. Boko Haram's end is near. That's according to the governor, Zulum. Federal lawmakers are angry over flight delays, and 18 Zamfara lawmakers vote for deputy governor sack.
And on the Punch newspaper, leading with a robbery as Oyo bullion van robbers. This also says Enugu gunmen kill 5 policemen and others. Riders to that story, Ibadan motorcyclists killed, commuters shot, hoodlums cart away cash as motorists flee. And 3 policemen manning Enugu checkpoint killed, POS man shot and woman abducted. That's the leading photo here on the front of the Punch newspaper. Scenes of a bullion van attack at the Idiakwe area in Ibadan on Thursday. Above the nameplate of the Punch this morning, CBN, Nigeria's central bank, to stop forex sale to banks by December, targets $200 billion non-oil exports. An electoral bill, National Assembly carpets Malami over self-interest comments. Also, petrol transporters gradually halt operations over low freight rates.
Well, the big story for The Guardian is Nigeria had lesson from Cameroon from the just concluded AFCON, but its leading headline says importers of dirty fuel must be held accountable. Buhari vows.
The international papers now. The Times, scramble for new Met chief after Dick quits.
And the Guardian newspaper, the Met police forced out over toxic culture failings. And Prime Minister, Europe on precipice as fears grow over Ukraine.
Well, there's no doubt that the foreign papers are leading with Cressida Dick resigning this morning. But let's bring in Emmanuel Bello for the press review this morning. Emmanuel, thank God it's Friday, but so many people in Nigeria don't seem so optimistic that it's another Friday when they have to queue and they're not sure of the petrol they're buying. But President Muhammadu Buhari is talking tough. What are we likely to see, Emmanuel?
In the polity, the stories of attack, I'm sure we're coming to those stories. The adulterated fuel story is very heavy. It's in all the newspaper. Buhari is talking tough, but so also is opposition. Opposition is talking even tougher. You know, opposition, the PDP, is saying that, look, this president must also answer for the issue of the adulterated fuel. The president is saying, look, I want to bring some people to book. Some names have been mentioned, the consortiums who are involved in importing the oil. We've seen some names out there already, MRS and some other oil, but they are also coming out and saying that it's just a case of buck passing. But the president is saying that, and even members of the National Assembly weighing on this and saying that, look, heads must roll. Some people need to be dealt with. It needs to be investigated deeper. But the PDP coming out even much more strong, with stronger words, accusing this president of hiding something. They say he is the Minister of Petroleum, and that the APC was only trying to was trying to play with the intelligence of Nigerians by looking for monies to fund their elections and their conventions. essentially actually saying that the president is to be blamed for what is going on, and that there are many people sharing this opinion that look, you don't have, probably there's an attempt at shielding some people from what is going on. So whatever it is, a lot of calls everywhere that this has to be, deeply investigated, even as those queues are still there. One of the newspaper reporting that the queues have refused to go. There was promise that at the weekend they'll be gone, but clearly those queues are still there. The suffering continues. The crisis of those fuel, adulterated fuel, damages of cars, people not too sure where to go and get compensation. The marketers are saying it is NNPC that is supposed to compensate, and then NNPC is saying no, those companies that brought in the fuel. But by and large, Nigerians are asking, where was the president? This is on his watch. How could this fuel have gone into the market in the bloodstream of the country without the Minister of Petroleum knowing? But he is talking tough and saying that he's going to deal with all the perpetrators, while the opposition party is saying that they need an independent inquiry into this, and that the president is not competent, or the APC-led government is not even competent to actually undertake any form of inquiry in this, because they've been compromised. So they are calling for an independent inquiry. And so this is gathering storm. It's going to get more interesting as we head into the weekend and next week.
Emmanuel, he's talking tough, but how tough are his words? In the UK, Cressida Dick stepped down just because the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, had no confidence in her anymore. But here the president's still talking tough. Doesn't this spell the inefficiency in the institutions in the country? Ordinarily, we should be picking up the papers and reading companies ABC have been sanctioned for importing toxic petrol, but it's day 3 or 4 and counting, and the leadership is still talking tough.
Yeah, well, that's to your point. That's what they essentially what the opposition is saying, that look, it's talking tough is not enough, and that's why the PDP is talking even tougher than the president, saying that no, head must roll. In fact, all essentially saying that they don't even have any faith in this president to be able to carry out any form of serious inquiry, calling actually for an independent inquiry into this. And like you stated, the case of the police chief in Britain, who was actually, some people would say, doing a good job, but yet just because the mayor, lost any faith in her, had to resign. So you see, in one clime, you have a situation where people actually leave their job when this kind of thing happens. Some people, but you see, you don't have that culture of people resigning, people taking responsibility, personal responsibility of saying, look, this happened under my watch, I need to go. You are right. We should be hearing that some people are resigning, some people are saying, this is my fault, I have to go. Even when it seems as if they're doing a good job, let alone now that this was just a disaster, it was a crisis, it's a scandal that you have those adulterated fuel running around, and that the NNPC actually admitting that they knew about this like last month. So why are some people still having their jobs? Yesterday, House of Rep was stating that, look, some people need to go, and that head this to roll. It's what's going on, and there's total outrage out there that some people must take responsibility for what has happened.
Emmanuel, it's also important to state that the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners is saying that the fuel scarcity in retail outlets could get worse as petrol transporters are gradually halting operations over low freight rates. Now, let's look at another story on the front page of this day and also the Punch. CBN eyes $200 billion from fresh non-oil export initiative, and they plans to end forex sale to banks by year end, Emmanuel.
Yeah, well, it's another initiative by the CBN. The CBN has actually ramped up its activities, especially in trying to weigh on the economy as, the Apex Bank, and it's doing a lot. And it's now saying that, look, we are no longer going to be giving foreign exchange to banks. In the past, all that banks need to do was come and collect this. But saying, look, banks should look inwards and to look how they're going to be raising their foreign exchange. And it's a way of stimulating the economy and helping local business grow, which CBN has been doing increasingly, especially as this government winds down. You see the CBN playing very major roles, whether it is in those rice pyramids we saw the other day or other form of support it's giving businesses, making it very easy for businessmen, for small businesses to take off. And now also engaging the banks and telling the banks that they have to do what is needful. Look at, some other areas apart from the dependence on oil for foreign exchange, to see how banks are able to, work with businesses across the land and also increase, stimulate growth in various sectors beyond, our dependence on oil all the time. He is looking at agriculture as one solid areas that we can, source better funding from.
Emmanuel, the Continental Showpiece AFCON has just come to an end, but we're having so many stories to remember from it. And The Guardian is leading with its big story. It's urging its readers to go to pages 4 and 5, and you have that leading photograph. It comes as Nigeria moves ahead of Egypt, Cameroon, Tunisia in the latest FIFA rankings. Good news. But let's talk about some stories that The Guardian is reporting. In Ibadan, there was a robbery attack yesterday, very daring, I must say, in broad daylight. Policemen were killed. But there's also a story of President Muhammadu Buhari telling diplomats not to meddle in 2023 election. Emmanuel Bello, it's Friday. Make your pick of the stories.
Well, I think the Ibadan story, that's the Punch actually leading with that. It's a big one. Punch actually making an outlay of some of the crises that happened yesterday. It was almost like war. We had issues in Enugu, then of course there was Ibadan, and it's almost like a gangster movie. A bullion van, waylaid, and of course you had those shootouts, and unfortunately you have those number of deaths. They are getting more daring, and that these situations are getting dire. I think with the way the Punch, focused on it, is something that should be worrisome. If, hoodlums can actually take up those kind of, be so courageous to fight in the way to do this kind of a thing. Broad daylight in a very busy street. That tells you that some of the things that everybody seems to be talking about, which is the fact that there's a problem with the security architecture of this country, you begin to take them so seriously. They are no longer figures, they are not just longer issues of debates. These are things that Nigerians are witnessing, seeing face to face. It's a serious indictment on the security record of a government that actually campaigned on the grounds of securing lives. Other people will say, well, these are the sort of things that happen everywhere. But of course, this is getting, really out of hand, and it's something that is worrisome. Punch is actually zeroing on that story that Guardian just mentioned somewhere in this, among the stories that you were reading out.
Emmanuel, 2023 coming ever closer. Do we see the current leadership doing anything different between now and when this administration terminates?
Well, I don't know whether it's in the area of, for better elections, but of course, what you just asked now is what everyone is worrying about. A story in this day actually talked about, the 2022 committee, head by our chairman here. And it's the biggest issue. Everybody is talking about it, leadership. Will there be better leadership? Will there even be a better transition? It's a question that everyone is asking, and this president is still promising that he's serious about a transition. But even now, up to now, we've not seen the Electoral Act, signed into law yet. And so you're right, a lot of concern about that. And then even the issue of security, the president saying that we should give him time between now, in another months he will get everything right. There is an effort to restore confidence in the people, but again, increasingly a lot of people losing faith and wondering, just like you just wondered, whether there's going to be any whether there's going to be any push that will make a major difference. The 2022 committee is also worried, weighing on it strongly and talking about leadership and saying that in 2023, we can't just continue the way we are doing. There are warnings, IMF is warning, the economy is slowing down, and all sorts of things are going on. So the issue of the search for a better leadership is on, and this is not even left to the politicians anymore. Businessmen, civil society, journalists, everybody is coming in to weigh on the issue of better leadership as we head into the transition year.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel Bello, for joining us this morning.